Hello and welcome to Conversations with Lady Pruitte. I am so excited that you're with me one more time. This month, I'm so happy. We're going to be talking about married love. And I'm going to actually be doing two videos this month instead of one. The first one will be with my husband, who's going to be joining me, and we're going to be talking about some issues that pertain with marriage and maybe a little bit of advice for younger couples, and kind of talk about some of the things that we've experienced through our marriage. In the second one, I'm actually going to invite two other couples, one that has been married for a short time and another one who's been married also for a little while. And we're also going to talk about the way they interact with each other as couples and some of the things that they have learned as they have, their marriage has progressed. So I'm excited for you to join us, and we're going to go right into our conversation. Today joining me is my husband of 33 years. Honey, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Pastor Eddie Pruitte of Holiness Tabernacle Church of God in Christ. I'm a full-time minister. I love preaching the gospel, and I have been blessed to have this lovely woman walk with me for the last 33 years.
Well, since we are talking about marriage, we have been, as you said, married for 33 years. We have 4 beautiful daughters. We have 2 of them that are married. So we have 2 sons-in-law. And we have combined about 5 grandchildren.
About five.
5 grandchildren. So,
and do we call them son-in-laws or son-in-love or sons?
We go back and forth. We call them sons-in-law, or we call them sons. But they are our sons. Yes, they are. Yeah. All right. So as you mentioned, you're a full-time pastor. I normally categorize myself as a stay-at-home wife.
Or domestic engineer.
Actually, stay-at-home wife works best for me. And I like saying stay-at-home wife because I hear people say, they're stay-at-home moms, but my children are grown. They're all adults, so I'm no longer a stay-at-home mom. I'm more of a stay-at-home wife.
But you are, in all fairness, you are very active in the ministry. You play an integral role in the ministry, significant so, between helping with world missions, feeding, and doing the CD program. You stay quite active, so I think that should be brought to light. You do a lot of things.
Yes, I do,
and it's a big part of our marriage.
It is. It's actually a huge part of our marriage. I am a full-time. I call myself also a full-time pastor's wife, and which comes with a lot of responsibility and different things that I do. But I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
All right. So since we're talking about married love today, honey, let's talk about what first attracted you to me.
All right. This is a family show, so no. In all honesty, when I tell the story, I'm very appreciative, and sometimes you don't like it, but when I first felt attracted to you, I knew I was going to marry you before I even met you. And I think it's a story worth telling. I was in graduate school, new in ministry, working with my father in Illinois, and my sister had relocated to Staten Island, New York, and she called me and asked me to come up and visit her, and wanted me to meet some of her friends. And I wasn't really interested in that at all. I was focusing on my career, on ministry. And when she said, I want you to meet, so-and-so and so-and-so, and I want you to meet Vivian, as soon as I heard your name called, the Spirit spoke to me and told me, get your ticket, go to New York, meet Vivian. That's going to be your wife. It doesn't sound real romantic, doesn't sound perhaps plausible, but that's the God knows truth. And so when I met you for the first time, I noticed how you carried yourself. You were quiet, but there was an inner confidence in you that I was just drawn to. And so that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Yes. So that's how I became. Again, before I knew you were going to be my wife.
Okay.
But I didn't tell you that.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't. On my end of the story, what had first attracted me to you, starting back in the story, just like you did, your sister and I attended the same church on Staten Island in New York, And she said to me, "My brother's coming to visit, and I want you to meet him." And I said, "Okay, I'll meet him." And I heard her ask 3 other girls the same thing. So anyway, you came to visit, and
I did meet those young women,
uh,
but I expressed no interest in them.
okay. But I remember when you first met me, I thought you had no interest in me
The Lord was my shepherd.
because you, if you remember, you actually did not. You ignored me most of the night.
I said hello.
You said hello.
I introduced myself.
Yes.
I was very confident.
Yes, and then that was it. Then you moved away and didn't talk to me for the rest of the night. So, but
sporadically, I think I might have.
yeah. But anyway, things that drew me to you were you definitely had an air of confidence about you. You seemed like a young man that knew where you were headed. So that was something that really attracted me. And one thing that I always tell you is that I felt you had potential. So your potential definitely attracted you to me. So let's talk about, most people usually say, what is the best marital advice that you've been given? But today I want to talk about a little bit about what is the worst advice that you were ever given?
Well, you know what comes to mind is when Oprah in The Color Purple said, "You to a heart would beat me." I can't recall, and I don't believe I have ever really received marital advice, good or bad, from anybody. I wasn't one to go around asking, but I will say that I was a student of observation. There were 2 deacons at our old church. I call them Christian gentlemen. Mm-hmm. I loved how they opened the doors for their wives. They took the car around to pick up their wives. I admired that. I admired how my dad worked hard to provide for my mother. I observed and watched those things. And so I would have to say, by observation, the worst I ever seen that made an impact on me was I knew of someone, he was married with a family, and he dressed extravagantly. I mean, he dressed to the T, and his wife and children didn't dress so well. Okay. I made note of that. I thought it was just in bad taste for the husband and provider to live several stations above his wife and his family. I never wanted to be that type of person. So I think that would be, to me, that was bad advice.
Okay. Well, for me, I actually never went around seeking marital advice.
But there's nothing wrong with that. You just need it.
I can understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay.
Yes, I never did. But I guess I could say I did see some bad role models of marriage being modeled before me. And one of the things that I did, I know for some people, usually when they see a bad marriage model as they're growing up, they actually end up having a bad marriage or modeling the same behaviors, where I actually went in the opposite direction. I would look at those behaviors and I would say, that's something that I don't want in my marriage, so I want to do it differently. So in that way, I guess you could say some bad marriages actually modeled for me what not to do in marriage.
Yeah.
All right, so now, quarantine life. We have been in quarantine for about a year now.
10, 11 months, yeah.
Yeah, almost a year. And so let's talk a little bit about how this has affected our relationship.
I think it has drawn us closer together. I spend more time at home.
Yes.
And I think we've had to learn one another over again. We've had to strike some agreements or some compromises. We have developed new hobbies together.
Actually, the hobbies, I actually like that we've developed hobbies together.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is our word game, which, by the way, several levels above you.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you are. I will readily admit that. We were walking together before the weather turned. I enjoy that. I'm an outdoor type person.
Right.
I enjoy the walking together.
And then how about our favorite thing, watching old movies? We've become, we're old movie buffs, so we
Yeah.
like watching old classic black and white movies. So that's
Yeah.
something we do together. But also, I must say that we kind of give each other our space every once in a while.
Mhm.
So it's not like we spend every waking moment together. Sometimes you like to retreat and do some studying or do some other things. I like to retreat to another part of the house. And one of the hobbies that I actually took up was painting. And I actually love to paint and spend a lot of time painting. And usually when I'm painting, you'll be off doing something else, and I'll put it up. And sometimes we'll say, hey, do you want to do something together? We'll do something together. We've been having a lot more meals together because we used to eat out all the time.
You left something out.
What's that?
You have become much more involved in ministry in foreign countries. And I really admire that. I really do. I love seeing you do that. I love hearing you talk in Espanol to those young women there. I just love that. And I love seeing how you brighten up. You laugh, and I hear them laughing, and that has been real medicine for me, because I believe that is real ministry at the ground level. That a lot of us, I think, it eludes a lot of us, and seeing you do that, it gives me some hope that somebody somewhere is making a difference for Christ in someone's life. That for me.
Yeah, actually, I love that work. It's actually so much so that I'm hoping to actually do one of my blogs on the ministry that I'm actually doing in the Dominican Republic. So that would be a wonderful thing. So, but it has been nice spending time together this whole year. But usually you're off to work in the morning, and I see you in the afternoon. But I've actually enjoyed our time together.
Yeah, yeah.
So challenges. Let's talk about challenges that we've experienced in our marriage over the years. The first one that comes to mind for me, very first one, especially early on in our marriage, is finance.
Yeah.
Finance was our biggest hurdle with our marriage. We just did not make ends meet. We tried all we can to make ends meet. Unfortunately, you spent a lot of time being underemployed because you were educated, and but you couldn't seem to get a job that matched your education. So we actually struggled terribly while we were in the early parts of our marriage. And as a matter of fact, there's a story that you always tell. I think it may be beneficial for others to hear about the baby formula and the baby cereal.
Oh, yeah. Well, you said something that I kind of differ when you said that we didn't make ends meet. We made ends meet. It was a struggle,
It was a huge
but we never went hungry. We never accepted to sleep outside or be reduced to, begging in the street.
That's true. You're correct.
But it was a struggle.
It was.
And, when we talk with other couples, we make note of the fact that most marriages end within 5 to 7 years because of finances.
Right.
But instead of it driving us apart, it drove us together because we struggled together.
Yes. As a matter of fact, let me interrupt you there because that is very key to bring out. And you're right. They say finances is probably one of the number one things that drives couples apart. But for us, we just clove or cleave to one another, which is what really, really helped us in our marriage, is that we stuck together even through the difficult parts. I think about the time when you wanted me to go back with my mom for a period of time just until you can get kind of things together financially. And you always, I know you like to say what I always said to you because it's kind of stuck in your head.
You said, you my husband, I'm your wife, and I believe, you said, I believe in you, and we're going to go through this together. And that was the fuel I needed in my tank. Yeah.
And we came through it together, didn't we?
Came through together, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the Lord has really helped us in that area.
But the story, I worked several jobs, menial jobs, but I did what I could to keep, the lights burning, and because we had small children, we couldn't go out and work because childcare would just tore us up. And I got home from work that early that Saturday morning, and you informed me that we were out of milk, the Similac infant milk, whoever it was, and I had no money. I had no money, and so I was going to pawn this wedding band,
Yep.
and I had a nice watch that my parents had given me for college graduation, and a radio, and drove to the pawn shop. It was closed. 2 early in the morning, I came back home, and getting out of the car, an angel. I said that woman was an angel with an army uniform on. Stopped me and said, "Sir, don't you have a small child in your house?" I go, "Yeah." Anyway, we can't talk forever. I love telling the story, but she practically made me take a big case of baby cereal, and I didn't want it because of my pride. And the Lord dealt with me and my pride, and and then while I was putting that away, several boxes of baby cereal, someone called you
Yes.
and said that their child was allergic to that
To the baby formula.
to the baby formula, and they had a case of it.
Yes.
And I drove over there and got that, and came back, and we had so much that it wouldn't fit in our cabinet. And I started calling people, "Hey, you need any baby cereal? Hey, you need any baby milk?" We went from being without to being a distribution center, because God did it. But I will say this: even though we struggled, you never blamed me for being underemployed.
Yes. Correct.
I never blamed you
Yes.
for not helping enough.
Yes.
I think it was our love for Christ and one another that kept us strong.
Yeah, I really believe that. I really believe that. And actually that takes us right into our next question, which would be, how would we advise a young couple that's just married? And I think these are things that you really got to remember, is that when you're married, you're in a relationship with this person, and you need to remember that this person and you are to become one. And because we cleave together, or we stuck together through the tough times, and if you can make it through the tough times, sticking to one another and not blaming each other, as you were mentioning, because when you start blaming, that starts deterioration, kind of a breakdown of the marriage.
Like Adam and Eve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because we were able to stick together through the tough times, I think that has really benefited our marriage today.
And all marriages, all relationships have challenges.
Yeah.
But if the couple believes in Christ, that is an advantage Christian couples have over other couples.
That's true.
Because if God can do anything, He can heal
Yes.
emotions, feelings. He can heal. But if you try to solve it outside of God, that's where interferences and distractions and hindrances will come in, because the enemy, the devil, is against any relationship. Husband, wife, father, son, mother, daughter. He don't like to see nobody get along, let alone a marriage, because marriage is the symbolism that God used to shed light on His love for the church.
Very true.
The husband and the wife, Christ and the church, which is the bridegroom. So, yes, we have had some struggles. There are times when I use this, where we're going like this. I'm saying something and you're saying something else.
Yes.
And what you say, I hear differently.
Yes.
And what I say, you hear differently.
Yes, because men and women hear things differently.
Yeah. But we have learned to kind of stop,
Yes.
hit the reset button, or how you said the other night, to go back to the default settings, and reconnect.
Yes.
Because we love one another. And even I'll add to that, God wants to see our marriage to be successful.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And remember, one of the things that we tell married couples when we're coaching them is that we always said one of the things that's really going to hold your marriage together is having mutual trust and respect for one another. It's very key. If you respect one another, you will not say things that you won't call each other out of your name. You won't say things that you'll try as much as you can not to be hurtful. And then also, if you understand that you love one another, you'll also understand that when I'm saying something to you, you understand that I'm not trying to say this to hurt you.
Right.
If I'm saying it, it's because it's something that's bothering me, or it's something that is going to be helpful in our marriage. So keeping that in mind is a good way, and not thinking, oh, he doesn't love me because he said, or she doesn't love me because she said. Because we understand that we love each other, and anything that we do or say, we're always trying to help, better, or help increase our level of understanding.
And so if I'm going to say something that I think might be borderline, I watch my tone. I try to deal with the amplification of my voice.
Okay.
Because sometimes the way the message is delivered
Yes.
Has a huge bearing on how the recipient receives or processes that information.
Very true. Very true.
I can say I don't mean to hurt you, or I wasn't trying to hurt you, but the delivery or the tone of my voice could be otherwise.
True.
So we had to be very careful, and that's a learning process.
It is, and it wasn't, and we're still learning.
We're still
learning because even after 33 years, sometimes we still have misunderstandings. You'll say something and I'll take it the wrong way, or I'll say something and you take it the wrong way, and we have to kind of come back and start over again and say, okay, let's get this straight and let's get this together, which is something that has always helped us. Because come back.
Because we know underlying whatever's being said, whatever's going on, underlying the bedrock of our marriages, I know you love me.
Yes.
And you know I love you.
Yes.
So no matter what is going on up here, that foundational thing that we have established is we love one another.
Yes, and I try to remember, something that you may have done that hurts me, or something you may have said is totally separate from you love me. It has nothing to do with, oh, he doesn't love me because he said or because he did. I know he loves me. So that's the foundation, as you said, is right there. And then the other things are, okay, these are the things we got to kind of work through, but we already know, we've already established that we love one another.
Yeah.
All right. So this has been very good.
Yeah.
Okay, honey, let's talk about intimacy in marriage.
All right.
All right. And how important is it? I believe that intimacy is extremely vital in marriage, and not just sexual. We'll put that to the side for a minute. It's just for a minute. But being intimate, that means really getting to know each other. And there's some things that we do to really get to know each other. One of the things that I like is usually, and my favorite time is when we're on vacation. I feel that when we're on vacation, I feel very free to talk about just about anything. And I don't know if it's because it's a change of scenery, because I'm not at home, because one of the things that we do, if you remember, when we go on vacation is we say, we're not going to talk about church, we're not going to talk about the children.
Yeah.
Which is very tough to do, because those have been two huge, significant parts of our lives that we can't seem to separate. And every once in a while we do talk a little bit about it, but we like to kind of talk about each other. What are some things that we like about each other, things that we admire, things that we can change, things that we never liked about each other, not that we didn't like about each other, things that we do that maybe we don't like as much, or kind of get on each other's nerves and things like that. I love doing that, and I feel so much freer, like I said, doing it on vacation. But what are things that you do, or things that you think about when you're thinking about intimacy in marriage?
Talking and sharing thoughts is important to me.
Okay.
Because for 30-some years, you've been my biggest, my most ardent cheerleader and supporter.
Yes.
And I've enjoyed sharing dreams and ambitions with you, concerns with you. And I think I like to think that I've done the same thing for you as well.
Well, let me stop you there. Actually, you have. And one of the things that really, really helps me is when you just kind of, I feel like you pump confidence into me. Sometimes I'm very good at saying I can't do such and such things, but you have a way of coming in and walking me through step by step you'll tell me how much I'm qualified to do this, how I should do this, how wonderful it would be, how you know it's in me, and that just kind of boosts and builds my confidence and makes me want to feel, and it actually makes me feel like I can do it, and then that kind of helps me and pushes me to tackle things that ordinarily I wouldn't do. Because when we were married, as you remember, I was very, very shy, very timid, and I didn't say much of anything. And as we, progressed in our marriage, I finally found my voice. And I finally found that, hey, I can say how I feel. I can say, what I would like to say to you without thinking that, oh, he's not going to love me, or he's going to get mad at me. So that has kind of like emboldened me and helped me. And that's one of the things that I really credit you for, is because you have a way of always pushing me to try different things, to do new things, and it has been wonderful.
I think that's important for the success and fulfillment of any marriage, is for the one spouse, you get to love that person enough to want to see them at their very best.
Yes.
Because when they're at their best, then that helps you be at your best.
Yes.
And as long as that is reciprocated, that's great, because now when you're both operating in that way, I know whatever you do, if I promote it, it doesn't take away from me.
Yes.
And vice versa. It's not like, you succeed at my expense.
Yes.
No, we both go up together because we're one.
Yes.
And that is a part of, I think, of intimacy that people kind of miss.
Yes, and I think, and the wonderful thing is that when you see me do certain things, you don't get jealous or feel slighted because oh, she's trying to get above me or anything like that. You are always like so proud, and which is something that I love, when you feel like you're so proud that my wife is doing such and such things, and we discuss things together, and I say, honey, what do you think about me doing such and such? And you'll be like, yes, honey, go ahead, go for it. And same thing with you, of course, when you'll come and say, hey, honey, what do you think about me doing such and such? And I'll be like, okay. And even when, one of the things that comes to mind is when I wanted to go back to school. I remember when I wanted to go back to school and finish my degree, I sat down and we talked about it, and you said, honey, yeah, sure, go for it. And I said, well, honey, you understand that means you're gonna have to pick up more stuff at the house. You're gonna have to pick up, and do more with the children, because the children were younger then. And you were like, fine, go ahead. So we did, and you understood that, I had to take time to study while you were, cooking or checking homework with the girls and doing some of the things that I used to do. So you picked up more of the slack for that period of time. And I think throughout our lives, there have been different periods of times where, you're doing more outside the house and I have to pick up more inside, or I'm doing more outside the house and then you pick up the inside. So, but I think it's, in that way, it has been kind of a balance for us.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so now let's talk about how do we safeguard our marriage from, outside influences and, people maybe who try to horn in or, try to get between us in our marriage.
Well, the thought that comes to mind readily is the fact that some people will interfere without them even knowing that they're interfering. But the key is we have to allow it. Some people mean to do your marriage damage. They mean to.
True.
But some out of ignorance, some out of being biased, they could inflict harm. But the key is we have to allow them to do it.
That's true.
And I believe early on, you and I decided nobody, nothing is going to come between us in our marriage? Nothing.
Nothing. And that includes our children. That's
Yes.
something that we, and
Yes.
I know that a lot of younger couples who have children, once children come into the picture, it becomes all about the children. We were a little bit different in that we didn't always make our lives all about our children. We loved our kids, we did things with our kids and for our kids, but we never made our kids our everything. We always understood and always fell back on us. And we always made sure that us was a big part of the family. And that's the thing that, we had to get, the kids had to understand as they were growing up. So they understood. I remember you opening doors. Mom always goes in first. Because mom's the queen of the house. And then I would do things like, my kids would say, hey mom, why can't we have, such and such for dinner? I said, well, your dad can't eat that. And they're like, well, it doesn't matter. How about us? We like it. I said, this is your dad's house and we are not eating that. So, not allowing even children or
parents.
Or parents. That's another thing, because parents, sometimes ignorantly try to, they kind of interfere in marriages. Even slight things like, trying to borrow money from one and trying to get you not to tell the other one, and things like that. So, or
to some parents, my mom wasn't this way, but some moms feel like, he's always gonna be my little boy, or the dad might feel she's always gonna be my little girl. Well, no, I'm not your little boy. I'm Vivian's husband. She's not your little girl. She's my wife.
Yes.
And so that can be a bitter pill for parents to swallow, but it's necessary to have a healthy marriage.
Yes, and other things that we didn't do is talk to our parents about one another. That's also, I think, a big mistake that younger couples do is always turning to the parents and telling them about the other, about their spouse. I think that's just not good practice. And even talking against your spouse was something that we never got in the practice of talking against, me
to friends
with my friends and talking about, things that I don't like about you, or you getting together with your friends and talking about things that you didn't like about me. So things like that are things that I think you really got to be careful not to allow to influence your marriage. Another one that people don't think about is stuff like television. Things that they watch, all this romanticism and all these different things. You can kind of get swept away in that. And then you come home and it's like, your expectations are here. And then no one could ever, your husband comes home and they can't meet your expectations. So that's another thing that you got to be careful of.
Because it's unrealistic.
It's fantasy.
Yeah.
It's fantasy. Yeah. It's not real. They're not even really married in real life, so don't fall for that. All right, let's talk about friendship and marriage. All right, and I love that our marriage also, that besides being married as a couple, that you and I are best friends.
We have fun together.
We love spending time together. We love doing things together.
And we have fun together.
Yes.
We laugh together.
We laugh together, yes.
We joke together.
We joke together, yes. And our relationship, I say we started off as friends. Of course, you probably think differently because you had you had something else on your mind. But when we started off, for me, I started off, you befriended me, which I liked.
I did.
I'm glad you didn't come in and say, I'm here to marry you. But we took time to develop a friendship, to get to know each other.
But
and
I had a plan.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Writing letters, I remember, I still have all my love letters.
But they didn't start out as love letters.
They did not start off as love letters. And it's funny because reading them now, I see the gradual process of us falling in love, as opposed to back then I was just saying, oh, it's my friend, it's my friend. But I love writing letters, but also because when we wrote letters, because back in our day, we couldn't afford to do long distance calls. So we may have called each other once a month. So we had to write. So we wrote often. And I would write him like 1-2 page letters. He would write 4 and 5 page letters.
Novels almost.
Yes, they are. We need to get them published.
I had a lot to say.
Yes, you did. You always had a lot to say. And I was a lot more shy then. But the thing about the letters though is that when you write letters, there's some things that you can say that sometimes you don't feel comfortable sharing in person. So I think the letters kind of helped me be able to get some things out that I wanted to share with you that I was kind of scared, especially because I was really shy. And I was very scared to tell you about it, but it was seemed to be easier just putting it in a letter.
But I think for couples today, I don't know why, but it seems like couples work harder at being married than they work at being friends.
Yes.
I think if you can befriend your spouse, marriage would be easier.
Yes.
You know, learn not how to take yourself so seriously.
Yes.
You know, take a joke every now and then, laugh every now and then, do something fun together. Doing laundry ain't fun. You know, changing baby's diapers is not fun. But you know, having our wiffle ball games outside.
Yes, the kids hate it, by the way, but
it was
fun because they look back on it fondly now, and those are memories. And
tell the story about you hiding the girls.
The girls. Okay, I gotta tell this story. All right, we had this thing every fall. My husband would gather the girls, and he would start singing this song saying, "We are raking leaves. I got all my daughters with me." Sister Sledge. We're dating ourselves. So anyway, you know, they would have to come outside, and I would sit on the porch and watch them as they were, you know, raking leaves and whatnot. So this particular day, my husband happened to go in the backyard, and I took the girls, and I told them, "Come on, girls," and I hid them under the leaves. So they were all hiding under the leaves. Yes, it was bad. So then, when my husband came around the phone, I was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, I can't find the girl. I don't know where they went." So my husband's running up and down the street, yelling their names,
almost crying.
We're, you know, looking for the girls, and then then the girls pop up out of the leaves.
Did you ever repent for that? You should. That was bad.
So it was so funny. So of course we had a great laugh. I did, and the girls did. My husband did not think it was funny.
It took me a while.
It took a while. Now he can look back on it fondly, but back then he was not happy.
Yeah.
But again, it was fun. It was things that we did. You definitely were a force that had us. You were determined that our family, that we were going to have fun. You were determined.
Because we struggled, we still had to find ways to have fun.
Yes.
Because if not, you sit around and you mope about what you don't have.
Exactly.
And I think if you do that, you forget what you do have.
Yes.
No, we didn't have brand new cars, but we had a clean, nice house. We had a nice family. And so I think, again, laughing and having fun takes the edge off and allows you to focus on what you do have, rather than what you don't have.
That's very true. Very true, because I remember some days us going on picnics. Totally free. We would pack a lunch, take the girls, and we go out and just have a picnic,
or go to the library,
or go to the park. You know, different things, things that didn't cost money because we just didn't have the money. We didn't have the money, but we still yet wanted to give something to our girls that they would be able to remember, and we wanted to create memories that they would remember fondly looking back on their families now. So, honey, thank you for joining me in this conversation.
I enjoyed it. I did.
Okay. Well, we're glad. We thank you so much for joining us in this conversation, and we hope that you stay tuned for the second part of the marriage love video.